All right, and we are live with Wednesday Night Chats number 5, and we've got Casey.
Hello. Can you not hear me? Hello. Hi. Why is the camera not going?
We can hear you, Casey.
And the
Okay.
camera's going. You're completely fine.
You're 100% okay, buddy. We got Justin.
Howdy.
We got Dennis.
Hi there.
And we got Dan,
Hey, how are you?
making his long-awaited return. Right now, how am I supposed to talk smack about my former roommates? You were there the whole time.
It's true. It's all right. You can still do that.
Yeah. Oh, I won't restrain myself. So today we're talking about what it looks like to add an introspective practice into your life. And where we're defining introspective practice is just a time that you set aside in your life, 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, where your only goal is to figure out what your experience is, goal number 1, how that experience comes to be your experience, goal number 2, and then what you can do to intervene and shape that experience. So number 3. So 1, what's going on? 2, how did that happen? 3, what can I do about this? That's an introspective practice. My experience is it's really hard to sell people on that as a thing that they should add to their life. I found it tremendously important. A lot of people and a lot of traditions have found it tremendously important. It goes by a bunch of names like contemplation, prayer, meditation, all this stuff, but that's what it's all about under the hood. So tonight we're looking at, for people who do that already, what's that look like? What are the obstacles that arise? For people who don't do that, okay, what would the argument need to be that would sell you on that as a proposition? Or what are the sort of arguments you've been listening to inside of your head that turn you away from that as a proposition? Just kind of investigating that. Mainly for my benefit, because I talk to people about this all the time and I don't necessarily understand it. So with that little preamble, has anybody got something you want to kick it off with?
What helps me to do that is I try to break it out. I try to quantify things, right? Like just coming from a science and math background. If I can like just say, oh, like taking 10 or 15 minutes to sit in a quiet place and do something or meditate or just, think about what happened in the day or how I plan my day. I say, okay, I've got 16 hours in a day. And then I break that down into minutes by using dimensional analysis. And then I'm like, oh, hey, cool. I've got 15 minutes over this. That's how much of the day I have to spend to make myself a little bit happy or a lot happy. Great. I can totally do that compared to feeling really, really bad all the time and an anxious mess about how I'm never going to go make my parents happy because I'm not a doctor.
So it's for you then it's a little bit of an investment argument, right? So you invest
that last part though.
So you invest a small amount of time, right? And you're actually sitting there quantifying that, like the percentage of the day that I would spend on this.
Yeah.
And that small amount of time then shapes how you perceive the rest of the day. And so it's a good yield. It's a good return on your time.
Yeah. I mean, that's one way to look at it. I'm also, super lazy in the sense that it's the same reason I apply the few minutes of happiness that a few minutes of meditation that I'm going to spend is going to, again, a return, right? Like I can spend a little bit of time now and be more happy later. It's the same reason, the same kind of like thought process I put towards like meal prepping. I can do a lot of work now during this time so I can save a lot of time later. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not even like joking about this either. Like I'm dead serious. Like I spend 15 minutes in the morning sitting down, thinking quietly in a corner, doing my meditation thing, and I'm just stoked for the rest of the day. And I didn't really start doing it until I started coming here and talking about things.
Oh, well, there you go. We're already winning over here with the Wednesday night chats. But and I think that the meal prepping is a wonderful place to put it. It really is the same sort of thing, right? It's where you set aside a time where you do some work in advance to make the rest of your life easier. Mm-hmm. Right? You meal prep because you know that when life is happening and there are stressors, it's going to be really hard to make the right decisions about your diet, and you know that your diet's important, so you're going to set aside a special time where you just attend to setting yourself up for success in your diet. And that's exactly what an introspective practice is about for sort of your whole state of being, right? In the stress of the world, it's really hard to consistently make the decisions that promote our happiness and our well-being. So we set aside a little time where that's the only focus, and that sets us up for success for the rest of the day, rest of the week, what have you.
Yep.
I think that's a perfect frame for it, actually. That's great. Anybody else got thoughts around that?
I find it difficult to sometimes to force myself to set aside time for introspection. It falls into the same category as other things that I would like to be doing but actively avoid for some reason. Like exercising, flossing, taking care of myself, doing anything that would that would make me in general happier. But I found in the past that what works for me is killing two birds with one stone. Like I do a lot of introspection when I'm exercising. Like if I'm out on a jog or a walk or just doing like a body weight routine at home, like that's a great time for that, and I feel like I'm being efficient. So, I think that's a good best practice for some people is getting that done at the same time.
Yeah, and if efficiency can be a frame that helps you with that, then that's really great. And also, really, you can do a tremendous amount of introspection while doing exercise. Running is a perfect context for meditation, because really running and meditation follow the same flow, right? Where actually, let me walk it back from meditation to introspection. You could be doing anything. You don't have to be doing a specific meditative practice, but it follows the same kind of flow where very often it can kind of be challenging at first. For a lot of people, meditation or other introspective practices really suck. When you first sit down, you get fidgety and antsy, and you kind of can feel like you're fighting your way upstream. And running is very much the same way. That first mile is often unpleasant, even if you're a moderately experienced runner. But then things start to click into place, and actually this is really working, and it's really feeling good, and I can really get a feel for how this is helping me. They both kind of follow that flow. So bring them together, and you can power through the rough stage of both of them at once, and then you're just really, really kicking butt. So yeah, I think that could be an excellent tip for a lot of people, is that unless you're really struggling, introspection is something that you can 100% pair with a physical activity that doesn't require kind of like active monitoring. If you don't have to, you probably don't want to try to play football,
right?
and practice introspection, because there are too many small decisions to get made in there, right? So, but doing something that's very repetitive, doing something that's very sort of like muscle memory oriented, doing something you can just do by feel, right? And still have enough sort of cognitive resources left over to really track in detail what your experience is of that process can be very helpful.
Brian, let me tell you something.
Okay. You're telling me something?
I'm telling you something.
It's gonna be jujitsu.
Hell yes.
I'm just calling it right now.
Yeah, I can walk into practice feeling like shit, and I'll walk out feeling like I forgot what I was upset about. Because guess what? The life-threatening like encounter that I'm having with the next person who wants to kick my ass, it makes me realize, like, put things into perspective. Like, oh yeah, that thing wasn't that bad. Just as long as I just handled it.
Those are different processes, right? They can be complementary, but there are benefits to an introspective practice that I think that you're going to struggle to experience if that's your only context for it. I got a little feedback somewhere.
Yeah. Also, Dan, you should keep toothpicks on your desk.
Okay.
Or I mean, dental floss.
I'm not out of the mouth bleeding stage, so I got to do it at a sink.
What's happening here? I feel like
we've had an on and off all week discussion of dental floss going on. So it's bleeding over.
Old bleeding gums down.
Yeah. I just milestone for my life for, if anybody cares. I just made my way through my package of 90 little flosser things that I've had on my desk.
Nice.
First time in my life.
Nice work, man.
That I've actually gotten all the way through one of those without somehow life intervening and all of them ending up on the floor, and then I have to get a new package. Or that's happened a surprising number of times. I think at one point somebody was trying to sabotage my dental hygiene. So I kept them in the bathroom, and then I would find them on the floor. I go, what is happening here? How does this keep coming to be?
I'll blame Fabian for you.
This was in the before times, before even Fabian. Anyway.
The before times.
We've lost Dennis.
It happened in the past.
And we've lost the thread. So let's get back to just sort of this idea. Oh, Dennis is back.
With a new picture.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back on track here. This idea of either, what would it take to convince you, or what has it taken in your experience, or what is your current experience of some sort of dedicated introspective practice?
The other thing I need is a reminder, constant reminder. Needs to happen.
That's structure.
I have to set alarms for myself for everything in my life, but for introspection as well.
I always come back to at the monastery when people were really struggling, they had a 15-minute timer. Just carried around a timer with them, and it just went off every 15 minutes. And every 15 minutes, it was their job to check into, what are you experiencing right now? Is this the thing that you're trying to choose? Right? That's an extremist case, but that was the only purpose of that environment. So, could do all kinds of weird stuff, and everybody's like, yeah, I totally understand why that's going on and support that you're putting those structures into your life, which is, a really nice place to be, but a lot of the world isn't going to be okay with you having a timer going off every 15 minutes.
No, I'm keeping that on me at work from now on.
Right? I mean, if you have your phone set up to buzz,
if
you have a no audio, just a buzz in your pocket every 15 minutes, and you feel the buzz and you go, yeah, what am I experiencing right now? Yeah, what does the world look like through my eyes right now? 30 seconds can save your day.
Hell yeah.
Anybody else?
I guess I'm trying to I'm really thinking about it because coming from someone who's deals really well with anxiety in stressing about my actions and the things I do, I find it really hard to actually take the time. I find it hard to separate the just actively checking in and thinking about what I'm doing, what I should do better, versus having an all-out anxiety attack, going oh God, I said the wrong thing, I'm not doing the right thing, I'm not far along enough, avoiding that death spiral. So I guess that's a curiosity there. Is do you have any advice on actually avoiding the death spiral when you do the introspection?
Set a timer, and then make the purpose of the introspection to watch the death spiral. Don't try to avoid the death spiral. Just watch how it happens. So just go, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to check in. And a lot of forces within my mind are going to try to make this an incredibly overwhelming, frightening, negative experience, right? And that's not on accident, right? Because you're doing a thing that is going to give you the skills to shut those forces in your mind out of being able to direct what your experience is.
Yeah.
And so you're running right up against the defense mechanisms to keep you where you are presently. And so you just reframe it. You say, okay, the spiral is going to happen. That's a thing that's where I am right now, right? I am in the place where spirals begin. Great.
Okay.
Excellent. So now I'm going to watch how the spiral happens. What kinds of narratives drive it? What kinds of sensations in my body are those narratives paired to, and are they using to lend legitimacy to themselves, right? And then what are the steps, right? Okay, this narrative leads to this belief, leads to this narrative, leads to this belief, and 10 steps later, I'm in this experience, right? And just go into that with the idea that you're like, you're like David Attenborough of your mind, right? You don't want to avoid the hyena. You want to tell the world how the hyenas live. That becomes the purpose, right? Okay, that's my practice. I'm going to spend 5 minutes being David Attenborough and narrating for myself into some sort of durable medium, right? If be just recording it on like an audio recording app or journaling or what have you, but I am going to get every detail of the life cycle of the death spiral process out there. And then I'm going to be the world's leading expert in this process.
I would journal the shit out of those death spirals too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've gotten a lot better at actually, yeah,
I think a couple of weeks ago you showed me your chart.
Yeah, so anytime like I actually get into those things, I try to do a better job of actually writing down what's happening and the emotions I'm having, also noting like the thoughts I had that led to them, because when you review them later, it's usually like, oh, that's clearly irrational.
Yeah, later you're like, that's never gonna happen to me again.
Yeah.
And I have a question, Dennis. How have your symptoms and like what are the have the motivations for your spirals changed at all, or is it all the same shit?
Oh yeah, so actually it's really fascinating because as these last few months have been going, things have been going really great, right? Which is like that's always like that's the preset in a TV show right before like the really bad thing happens. So it's like I actually have my journal right here, since last week we talked about setting reminders to bring shit in. So basically like work started getting like really stressful for me like 2 weeks ago, and I started noticing like the same kind of like things going on where it was like, oh, you know what, like I'm still like recovering from a cold, I guess I shouldn't go like work out today. And so like it's like, oh, and like maybe I don't need to like do this. But a lot of the back end stuff I noticed is exactly the same, where I'm like, oh, all of a sudden like when like the anxiety was getting really bad, it's like, oh, I'm having like this kind of like unknown pain like on the side of my body that's like, and I was like, when that one started happening, I was like, wait, I haven't felt this in like months and months. And it was like, oh, and then that same day is the day when I had this like all on panic attack where it's just like sweating and super freaking out and like super panic mode. And so it was really interesting because it was like it was coupled with like those feelings. Like I started feeling more like, oh, I shouldn't do things, I should just stop. And then that's when like the phantom pain kind of stuff started too, and it was like, oh, and then it all just like barreled out of control. And I was noting all of that, and that made it way easier to recover. Like that's the surprising thing. When I had like my big like explosion meltdown, which kind of happened last week, like I already and there was like a lot of other emotional things going on last week too, like a lot of really crazy shit. Sorry, cursing. I feel like I'm in a class. Yeah, I know. But it was the once I was writing it down and looking over it, it made it way easier to recover and go, oh wow, this chart, this last week of what happened. These are the classic symptoms. And then that weekend was like I was already like in recovery mode and feeling way better. And then I went to I went to my workout session this week and went even harder than I've gone before. I actually went too hard. I almost fucking puked. But it was just really surprising that like I felt super confident about overcoming that because of the fact that I took these notes and I was able to see like, oh, these are the same symptoms. They snuck up on me. They haven't happened in months. So I let them sneak up on me. And I was like, oh, these are weird feelings to be having. But then, then I caught on.
That sounds exactly like where I was a year ago. When I was starting to finally pull out, because what I was noticing is that like once I started tracking everything, like the occurrences became less and less, and I started to feel more and more normal again, and things were cumulatively better. However, weeks full of high stress, like when things would build up, I would know kind of when was coming, and it was almost hilarious because every time I would like wake up and like be feeling great and be like, man, I haven't had a panic attack in a while, was like a surefire way to get one. Like 100% of the time. So, but what I think it's great, Dennis, because I feel like you're on an upward trajectory that's like gonna build on itself.
I'm trying real hard.
And again, like that's where I was a year ago, and now I really only have like a full-on panic attack once every couple months, maybe. And things have to go like pretty wrong for that to happen. You know what I mean? Or at least so I think, it sounds great, man.
So can
Oh,
Can I jump in with 3 observations there?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna forget one of them, but aspiring 3. So the first one that's really interesting is you identify what I think is the most important thing, that it's the same back end with different front ends, right? So it's the same process under the hood of driving you into this downward spiral that ends in a panic attack, right? But it gets dressed up with all this different content, right? So whereas it had been about this one thing before, and you identify that, and then some new thing happens, and it goes, how can I make this lead to the same place?
Yeah.
But the physiological bits of it that make it work have to be the same, right? So you talk about like that pain in your side that you only feel under these circumstances. And I'm 100% with you there. For me, it's if I'm going into an experience of like profound frustration, that is like localized to just a couple of muscles in my neck. And if I feel those muscles in my neck going, I can go, oh, I'm about to get told a story about that I'm frustrated. And that story is going to say, these things happen in the world, and they are stressing you out, and that's why your neck feels this way, and you should feel this way about these events having happened, right? But if I'm paying attention chronologically, the feeling in the neck is first, and then an excuse is found in the world to justify that and build the narrative.
Yep.
Right. So that there's sort of one is it's really important to identify that it is the same back end with different front ends. 2 is these processes can create physiological effects in your body. They're small, right? But they're just significant enough that if paired with the right external stimulus, they can create a narrative that's really believable, right? That if you're not paying attention, if you're not recognizing that that's the same voice that's told you a host of bullshit for years, it's believable because you feel this thing in your body, and this thing is actually happening in the world, and the story seems to connect them up in a meaningful way. And then the process just gets rolling, it gets out of control. And I did forget number 3.
Aspiring.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's my aspiration was to get to the 3rd point. And
Okay.
It's gone into the ether.
Gentlemen, I have to bow out there, but thank you.
Alrighty, cheers,
you guys
boss. Thanks for coming.
I would say that external stimuli causing things too. Another big thing that I actually forgot, I had it noted on here when I actually had the full attack. That same day, I had managed to miss breakfast and stuff, but I still managed to consume like a ton of coffee. And I also told myself I deserved some Mountain Dew, which I hadn't had in a long time.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
So I had a ton of coffee, then a ton of Mountain Dew, and had no food. And so for a good chunk of that day, like I was on like a sugar and caffeine high. And then I finally started putting some food in me, but by that point, like the scales had already tipped so hardcore. And so I just like had all these chemicals, all this stuff going on. And, and that was a classic one way back in the day for me when I was first started getting anxiety attacks like that, or panic attacks, and I had no idea where they were coming from. Those were the days when I was like, oh, I'm trying to lose weight, so I'm not going to eat, but I'll drink this entire thing of French press coffee I made myself. Yeah, so it was all these classic symptoms that just managed to like slowly they sneak themselves in. They stacked up and then knocked themselves over right away. It was really impressive.
Yeah. And that's a great frame for it. Wow, that was a very well executed attack. All right, dang, you really worked for that one. Okay, cool. Right, if it can become non-confrontational, right? If the processes that are working against you, if you can embrace them. And just say like, yeah, hey, buddy, who's trying to make my life awful? Like, you really nailed it that time, right?
Yeah.
What that does is lets you dodge the follow-up trap, which is, oh my God, I can't believe I fell for the same thing as always. Oh, this is terrible. I feel so bad. I should have caught this. I shouldn't have made all these choices, right? Like that is part of the attack. That's step 2. Right, in a like 20-step plan of ruining your life. So if you if you can just go like, man, that's impressive. All right, wow, I got conned right there. Woo, okay.
No, yeah, and that afterwards, I was like, wow, like I really like I was impressed with myself, you know. And it's funny because yeah, that day after, like I was feeling good again, and like I started noticing there was a few social situations where like I started feeling super awkward, and I was like, oh God. But then I was like, wait, like don't let this happen because we were actually we had a work party where there was an open bar,
Oh,
and I asked for a Kettle One and soda, and they were like, "Oh, the top shelf liquor isn't included in this," and I was like, "What?" Because to me, Kettle One is the shit you buy at CVS pharmacy for $17 on sale. It's not top shelf liquor in any way. And so, like, I thought it was like a joke or something, and then I realized like I was being an asshole, and then I started getting like really nervous. Where I was like, "Oh wait, no, like I'll just have a beer." Like, I'm sorry, but like you know, and it kind of got to this awkward thing where I was like, oh, now I feel really awkward for like laughing or making fun of the policy. And I started getting in that spiral, but then I was actually like, I caught myself and I was like, nope, let's just walk away. We're all good. Like they don't care. They're just explaining the rules. They don't care at all.
yeah,
Right.
they went on autopilot the moment they started giving you the spiel and didn't listen to anything you said because it's the 40th time that night that they've said it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and they have their own policies and their own rules, and I don't care about the rules, right? And like, and it doesn't matter. So it's like I just walked away, went back to having fun with everyone else, and just like, but like, man, and like a few times later that evening, my brain tried to restart it, where it's like, hey, do you remember that time just a little bit ago where you messed up a lot? And I'm just like, stop it, brain, stop it. Like,
Yeah, this is not helpful. We're
yeah.
gonna do something else. Put the attention somewhere else.
Whereas I used to be really, really big on that, getting into it. Like, yeah, oh man, I did mess up and playing out the scenarios in my brain where it could have gotten worse. And I guess that's why I spoke earlier of like, what are those tricks? Because it's like for me, it's like I'm just trying to identify it and stop it. But you know, like earlier in the week, I did let myself get really deep in it. So, yeah.
Yep, and it's an iterative process, right? So one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is trying to counteract the belief that once you know a thing, you have to settle that thing all at once for all time, right? So very often people get caught by, I see what's wrong, I see this process, right? It's bad for me, I know that, so I'm never going to do it again, and that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's never worked for any human being ever. I'm done with this forever. And yes, now my life will be better. And then the first time they get caught by it again, shortly thereafter, really, they can lapse into this extreme disappointment or frustration or any number of responses which aren't helpful or productive. And that I see this now, so I'm going to take care of it. That's step 3 in the infinity point plan for ruining your life, right? Like, it's peeling the onion here. Every single time you think you have mastered a piece of it, it's fine because the next piece is right there, ready to nail you again.
Trouble.
Pull
Yeah.
you right back into the same processes that have been sort of dominating your life for as long as you can remember. So, avoiding all of those pitfalls and really sort of having a practice set up to bring it back around. Right? Having a space set aside where you really just focus on those issues is a really helpful thing.
So that's like, I guess that's that big takeaway we should be seeing then is like, oh, you're going to have introspection whether you want it or not in the bad way. So you might as well make time for the introspection in a way you control and help like make your positive versions of the.
Yeah, well, so you are going to be confronted with information about your experience in one way or another. So it's really setting the frame, right? If you have a formal introspective practice, you can make sure that that's happening in a time and a place where you have the resources available to make sure that that's a positive experience, right? Otherwise, the only time you're really going to get information about what your experience is when you're being clubbed with that experience. Right? When it's being presented to you as, oh man, isn't this awful that you feel this way? And you go, yeah, that is really awful. Oh, I hate this. Right? Which you do not pay any attention and continue experiencing the processes that led to that experience in the first place.
Yeah, I guess that is the big thing. Is so it's take even more time just to think about it and actually frame it and try to frame things more positively in that sense too. Of like, hey, here's the reality of it. Here's what's going on. Which I guess goes back to with the panic anxiety attack thing or last week being like actually listing that stuff out and being like, hey, here's the reality of it. Surprise. Like,
Yeah,
ain't gonna fool me to debate today, brain.
And you know, the universe is always actually nicer than the voice in your head tells you it is.
Yeah.
Like invariably, and which doesn't mean the universe is nice, right? And that doesn't mean that every time we're paying attention, we have a positive frame, right? We have the frame that most takes care of us in whatever circumstances we find ourselves in, right? We're not spinning. We're not trying to ignore the unfortunate parts of reality. What we're trying to do is take on accurate information about what's happening and put that into a frame that supports our well-being and our happiness. And you're going to have a lot more success with that if you're spending the time, you know, even if it's only 5 minutes a day.
Yeah, here we go. And so this is me with my planner too, as we talk, being like filling in my little feelings boxes too, just trying to like actually track it and be like, hey, oh man, it's actually funny because going back to Pebbles last week for just a brief moment too, right? I set my alarm, brought my planner in every day, but hey, that doesn't mean I actually freaking used it. So, you know, like once again, there's like the million-step process for forever.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Exactly. You just took the words from my mouth, right? Like you made the effort to not leave it in the car. Congratulate yourself.
Yes.
Celebrate that.
Celebrate every victory, no matter how minor.
And then
any excuse for a party.
And then you know, work on there. Work from there.
No, I totally agree. It's just it is amusing to me, but it's like, you know, but I recognized it. It's like I recognize like, hey, I'm here, we do it, okay. And like, and it's worked out too. In the long run, I still got all of my planning and stuff done. There were just like days where it's like, yep, the planner's sitting there, but it's like, still bring it in, set it where it needs to be, set it with everything else, being like, yes, and actually try to actively make those changes to actually put this stuff in here. So
I can report that I had some very successful laundry on Sunday. So that was great. And I can tell you, right, I didn't get to the bottom of my laundry pile. Okay. So that was my goal. I'm going to get there tonight for sure, because I have like almost no laundry to do. But, you know, just setting aside the time has made such a tremendous improvement in the situation, right? And that's, again, I did my 3 loads of laundry on Sunday, and I was like, you know, I got one more to do, and I could totally, like, I could stay up late and get it all done, or I can just chill, and Ryan, I'll take care of it on Wednesday.
Isn't your washer and dryer downstairs?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Yeah, I have to walk a block.
That's unfortunate, and I supersize with you, man, but, you know.
Did you say supersize?
Yeah, I supersized with him.
I wish my laundry was in my house.
Yeah, ensuite laundry, dude. It's tight. I love it. But
I could have the cleanest of all the uniforms.
Mm-hmm. Well, dude, you know, you tell yourself that, but
yeah, but that's not how it works out.
You'd be surprised how it works out in practice. But you know, I'm going straight from here. Harden the paint in the laundry. I've got a load of whites to do, and then I'm done. And very excited. So that's a successful pebble. Right?
Yeah.
Pile. So I just wanted to report that.
That's good. Good. For
Anybody else got any last thoughts here? I feel like ultimately we made the case, right? Like, which is fine by me, right? You know.
And as long as we can be a little entertaining too.
Yeah, Shin, I see you got your mic turned on there.
Oh, I just was gonna say, man, like, you should definitely. I don't know what the pricing structure runs in the States, but you should definitely look into like a laundry service, because like, and obviously like Thailand, it's way cheaper. But when we were in Thailand, let me tell you, Anna was super sketched out, about doing the laundry service thing, and I'm like, nah, dude, it'll be fine. Like, there's no way like the hotel is gonna recommend, something sketch or whatever. Like, they got a process, and it was like the equivalent of like $1.50 a kilo. So we just straight up gave these people a giant bag of laundry, and for like $4 got all of our laundry done. It comes back like washed, folded, sealed in bags. Like, if it's that big of a hurdle, dude, and it's like you could find something that's $10 to do all your fucking laundry for the week.
It is actually so. One, when I was in college and really struggling, I totally did that, and it is not that expensive in San Francisco. It's a competitive scene. There are a lot of folks offering that service, so it's actually very reasonable. For me, it's I can absolutely keep up with my laundry. It's just the recognition that there needs to be a little bit of structure around it. So that was something that I identified as, this is a place where I could add a little structure that would benefit my life and not really be that hard. If I just say that, like, I'm going to make a solid effort to have no laundry left every Sunday and every Wednesday, then that just identifying this is the time when I'm going to do this removes it from a negotiation process of what do I need to do right now? Because that like can end in this process that I call priorities shell game, where it's just like, oh, the priorities keep shifting around and I'm not actually doing anything. So if I can take it outside of that, I can add that, make that a habitual thing, then that can be a thing that's never a concern again. And I don't have to pay somebody to do it because it is right below me.
I'll do it for you.
I'm sorry, Casey, you can't use my laundry machine.
Well, I wasn't trying to use a laundry machine.
I saw that play. I saw where you're going there.
Right, it's so much further to go to your place to do laundry.
I saw it. You're just trying to sneak in here and get your love on me.
I was just
next thing I know, you're going to be in my living room handing out hugs.
Is that how that works?
Is that what that's called nowadays?
I think that's how it works.
I don't know. My wife just watched an Ali Wong comedy special. She seems rather empowered.
Oh, she's feisty?
She's feisty now. She's like, wait till we have a kid.
Does she have a new one? Because her previous one was really excellent, actually. So we've now lost the thread.
Yep.
So we had a good discussion. Let's just draw the line. I'll see you guys next week, hopefully.
Yeah, it's nice chatting with y'all.
Alrighty, cheers.